All right, it's time for some brain surgery. That's right, we're gonna do a brain transplant on this John Deere. See kind of how I'm laying this out in here. We got two of the ag leader modules already in there, just sitting in there, not where they're going to go. But what I'm going to start with is up front here with the seed sense module. Now what this will do is just basically relay information to the monitor up in the cab. And no, it's not going to go on the outside, but when you're drilling holes, it's a heck of a lot easier to start on the outside. So what I'm doing, it'll help if these hoses were out of the way, it's just taking a transfer punch, which these guys, I don't know if you can see that or not, just a round punch with a sharp end. And that sharp point, when you tap it, creates a little dimple. And that little dimple is where you drill. Let's see if we got oh yeah, we're good. So that does two things. One, obviously marks it. And two, keeps you centered. So when you get your drill in there, put the tip of it right there on the tip, or rather the dimple where the tip of the punch went, and your drill. Drill, baby, drill. All right, so now that we got our holes all drilled on the other side, well, from the other side rather, we just took it back off, and now put it on the inside of the brain box. So there's our 2020 module. Now it's time to start putting in the ag leaders. Okay, so now we've got to figure out how to get this little wimpy monitor wire back to the splitter back there between the air compressor and our brain box. So what I'm thinking is running this through the frame as well. Now it was one thing to run this this heavy duty hydraulic tubing or hose through that, but whenever you run wire through steel, well, you're just asking for trouble. So I've got a solution, I think. Now, this was left over from our plumbing project on this thing, and it's just some vinyl clear tubing. We used it as a sight gauge. So what I'm gonna do, hopefully, is just run this. Oh yeah, there's plenty of room there. Gonna run this on top of that hydraulic hose, just so we got some nice conduit there. So let's bring you up here. There's nothing that thrilling, but and then this will get, I was gonna say hopefully, gets run in there just like so. So now we've got something to protect it. All right, there is our brain box fully assembled, at least in terms of our modules. So now we need to come up with a solution to send a signal to these modules, letting it know, well, that they need to start thinking. And that is going to be the job of an implement switch. So, find a spot to set you down here. so much stuff in the way. And this is that assembly. So I know all you ag leader people are thinking, what in the heck? Well, this is what I used on that Great Plains out there all the years that I owned it. I used it in conjunction with my ag leader compass. And I'll show you the way it works. I put this on the marker circuit, and the way it works, it's got a pressure down here, and that's just your return. The cylinder that's inside there, I don't know if you can see down in there or not, that hydraulic cylinder's off of a John Deere 925. And what happens is, when you lower the marker, pressure is supplied down there, hydraulic pressure, moves this cylinder, which moves this little piece of scrap iron out to this whisker switch, and it engages it. And then the compass just started painting. That's all it did. Now this, all of these brains are going to be engaged as soon as that whisker switch is engaged. Now I know what you're thinking. Why don't you just, put that whisker switch on the implement? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The biggest reason for that is quite simple. This cart / seeding system, whatever you want to label it at this point, it's going to have two different toolbars back there. Two very different toolbars. It's just a lot easier to have that switch up there, so that as soon as you start applying hydraulic downforce to send the toolbar down, that thing engages. That also does one other key aspect, key component, key feature, whatever you want to say, and that is that when you start lowering your implement, that thing engages long before that toolbar is ever in the ground. That gets everything talking or started. Ag Leader made a little switch. They called it a jump start switch, so that when you were planting, you could hit that when you knew you were going to be lowering the planter, and it would get all the seed discs loaded up, turning, so that by the time those discs entered the ground, that thing was already in motion. This is going to do all that automatically, so I don't have to do anything in the cab. Taking notes out there, Ag Leader? Maybe? Probably not, and probably rightfully so. That's just the thought process behind this, is by tying it into hydraulics, I can get a little advanced warning to the system. And I only have to wire it in once. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and bolt that down to the top of our brain box, and I'm just going to keep running some cabling. At this point, it's pretty much just following Ag Leader instructions. So I'll take you along for the ride. Okay, just bring you up to speed here on our little brain box overhaul. Got all the Ag Leader modules in there where they belong, as well as our seed sense. Now I'm putting in one of these little hangers that originally came in the Bauer built brain box, and instead of holding the John Deere module, what it's going to do is hold these individual bus bars. Now what that's going to do is provide power to each of these Ag Leader modules. The seed sense down here doesn't have that little pigtail, so we don't have to worry about it for that. But for these, each one has its own external 12-volt supply that we gotta get to it. Now, I suppose, as many people have suggested, you could just come off the end back here. I don't know if you can see back in there or not. The end of the main equipment harness that Ag Leader has, and just plug directly into these modules. Now that one only has 3 connection ports, I believe. Yeah, I think it's 3. Obviously I need 5, so yeah, I could put a splitter on the end of one of those. I don't know if I want to really pull that much power through one of those Ag Leader harnesses. Plus I priced it out, and yeah, no, I'm not spending that for a splitter. Plus we're running a lot more amps because you have more of these modules. At least that's my thought process. Maybe it's stupid, I don't know. All I'm gonna do is pull directly off of this bus bar. I'm gonna supply 12 volts. That'll be our ground right here, and that'll all go up to the tractor. I gotta get 12 volts back here anyway for that system, as well as maybe any other systems in the future. So what I'm thinking is pull 12 volts back here on an 8 gauge wire, primarily because that's what I have. But now I know also what you're thinking, and that is, well, you're pulling 12 volts back there unprotected. That's a recipe for disaster. And indeed it is. And that's why we have these little guys. These are little breakers. Oops, that's upside down. So I got a 20 amp and a little 15 amp, little, relatively speaking. Those guys I'm going to mount up here on the front of this Bower box. And that'll just be as simple as going right in there like that, and then screwing them into place. What's nice about that, as opposed to a fuse, well, like you just saw, when they blow, the little flag comes down. So one, you can see it from the cab. Now, if you blow one of these breakers, you're going to know pretty much instantaneously when all these modules go out and stop working. But let's say you blew that 20 amp. Now, probably are really curious what the 20 amps for, and that's for our hydraulic cooler back there. You may or may not know instantaneously, and that's why I kind of like the idea of having those little breakers with the flag, so you can pretty much look in your rear view mirror on the tractor and see instantly that you blew it and that you have a problem. Also, you're going to be watching in the rear view for the hydraulic temperature back there. And I keep hearing thunder, I think. At least I hope. It is hot. It is hot out here, guys. Anyway, so that's where we're at. I'm going to run some more wiring here. I'll save you the boredom, but basically all I'm going to be doing is coming off these pigtails, putting the hot to hot and black to black, ground to ground, and then feeding this bus bar with that 15 amp. And then this bus bar back here, this other red one, that's what's coming from the tractor. At least I think. Well, I think that's how I'm going to do it. We'll see. Plans change. All right, guys. So we are back and working on the brain box of this beautiful planter. I guess it's beautiful anyway. The brains sure aren't. We got wires running everywhere in there. Now, for the most part, all of the modules are hooked up on the CAN bus line. That is the line that communicates with the Ag Leader Integra display that'll be up in the cab. Now, what I need to do is build a harness that'll come off of these 2 ports here up on the planter module, as well as this port that you can't see down in there off of the last liquid module. And what that'll do, it'll collect all of the electrical, digital signals from those 3 modules, put it down into one nice harness, and run it to the back where it will hook into the planter toolbar that we're building. Now to do that, I found one of these. This is a Deutsch connector. I believe it is a DP20, I think is what they're called. Anyway, this has 24 ports. I am only going to use 15 of them, and that way I've got some expansion room as well. And what's nice about this, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Probably not. So it works very similar to how a planter harness hooks together. It helps if you line it up right. Huh. My goodness, man. It literally works just like a planter harness. That's about what you got to do to find. There we go. And then it just twists and connects. So that way we have a good firm connection on our digital signals coming from our brain box, going back to the planter, telling it what rate to plant, telling it what rate to spray our pre-emergence herbicide. So I'm going to go ahead, get you set up so that you can watch me rack my brains out as I build this harness. Alright, so for this big wiring harness that we're building, there's our Deutsch connector that I showed you. And basically all I'm doing is going through line by line and assigning each one of these wires a position. Scratch that, hold on. So I've been working away at this for about an hour now. Nah, not really, it just seems like that. I hate tedious wiring, but here's what I've got done so far. I've got 14 lines run. I thought I'd show you what this all entails. So basically we start with one of our wires here. In this case I'm going to use a orange and blue one. I'm using these vice grip wire strippers. Love these things. I've had them over 10 years now. Almost twisted that. Then I remembered we don't want to do that for this style of connection. Alright, and then these little Deutsch connectors have these solid little crimp terminals. All you do is come on now, stick it on there. I got one of these cheap little crimpers off Amazon. And I tell you what, that is my new favorite crimping tool. I thought those little ones that, roll it over on each side and kind of grab onto the wire were pretty good, especially the ones that grabbed onto the insulation as well. But these, tell you what, very nice. And even better yet is when I go to insert it into this. So now this will come up in here. Maybe. There was the little click. I don't know if you heard it or not. I'll make sure. Oh yeah. And there we go. 15 happy little connections. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and get this inside some conduit, and then we'll start getting the Deutsch connectors on the other end. Okay, so now the objective is to turn this spider web of wiring into something we can use. So obviously at the one side, that is down here, we've got our big 24 pin out. And then on this end, it's going to go in the brain box. We're going to have different assignments to each end. So far I am getting the Deutsch connector ready for our liquid module, which is down here. That's going to be using these 5 pins. It's an 8-pin receptacle. They only use 5 of them. I've already assigned the wires. Now I just got to find them in that menagerie and just keep doing it. And now that the zip ties have settled, there is our finished product. Now, there is one thing to note, and that's right there. Once I get that up in the brain box, I'll finish putting on some conduit on there. I just want to see how this all sits up in there, because that stuff is not, while it's flexible, it's not the most, well, flexible. So I'm going to go ahead and snake that through, and then it's time to start zip tying more. Okay, so here we are over on the side of the rig, and we're gonna get ready to apply that decal that I showed you. Now, what I've already done is taken some of this foaming glass cleaner, sprayed that here on the surface, and that way we have just a nice clean surface to apply these. Nothing else really needs to be done. Technically, yeah, I should have tried to remove this a little better than I did. I took a heat gun to that even, and I'm not sure what Chem Farm used to stick that on there, but it is on there good. So really all I did is just made sure it was nice and smooth, and we're gonna go ahead and apply this logo over the top. Is it the right thing to do? Probably not. Is this whole project the right thing to do? I don't know. But that's what we're gonna do. So what you need for this project, real simple. I always have a tape measure handy. Get yourself a roll of this painter's tape. Also some scissors. You can also use a razor blade. For this, again, it's not real high precision. If you were doing this on like a car or something, or I don't know, something that is your Sunday best, you may want to take a little more time. Anyway, what I'm doing is just ripping off 2 to 3 inch slices of this painter's tape. Just stick them somewhere handy. I'm sticking them over here off screen. Maybe you can see them, I don't know. Get like 4 of them. That's all you really need. Put that down. Go over here and grab one of them. I usually grab the longest. Now you let gravity work. If you've been watching my channel for any time at all, you know I love to let gravity work, especially when I'm dropping little small bolts. So what we're gonna do is just make sure we hide that old Chem Farm logo. And I'm aiming for 15 inches off the rear of the tank, because that's what I did on the other side. And that's 14. So this is why I use painter's tape. Just peel that back, slide it forward about 1 inch, so it looks right. And there we be. All right, now we want to get it level. So now you just measure off the bottom. That side is 12 1/4. That side is 12 1/4. Now it's got a little bit of a bow to it. Bow ain't the right word, but twist, I think, is the proper term. And this, again, this is why we use painter's tape, is so that we can kind of dial it in to right where you want it. 1/4, 12 1/4. All right, so there's 12 1/4 from the bottom, and I'm just measuring up to our transfer paper. And now that that is correct, I'm just gonna relieve the stress at the top. All right, so now we've got the basics all laid out. Now, this is where the fun begins. Catch you here in a minute, because I have to go get one other tool that I did forget to mention. All right, so the other thing you want to have handy is one of these body filler spreaders. You can get these at Harbor Freight. Pack of 3, I think, runs you like $2. All they are is just chintzy plastic, but it's real pliable plastic. And that's the key. A lot of people use credit cards for these. That's doable. Depending on the graphics, you might rip it. These vinyl decals from Dad's, it's very high quality. I mean, it's nice and thick. You probably wouldn't have that problem. I just like using these. All right, so let's get started. And now all we need to do to get started, again, this is where having that 4th piece of painter's tape is going to come into play. You just take your transfer paper, separate it from the backing, roll it up like so. Be very careful. Again, depending on the type of decal, you might have problems with ripping. These Dads are really good. I mean, for eBay, I'm very amazed. I will definitely be using him again. And then this is the trick, or one of the tricks. And that's to cut your transfer paper here about halfway up. I'm going about 1/3 of the way up with these, just because of how they're shaped. All right, now we'll fold that top, come on down, just like that. And I just kind of get the back to stick here. Then you just work it down. Make sure we get all the air bubbles out. All of the air bubbles out, just like that. All right, now we can delete those. Fold it back. Take off the backing gently. Repeat the process going up. Let's see how many air bubbles we got in here with that old logo being under it. See how hideous it looks. It'll go with our 200-foot paint job, but How does that guy from Vice Grip Garage put it? Good enough for the girls we date? Something like that. I don't know. Let's see here. Wonder what that guy from Vice Grip Garage is doing today. Guarantee he's not doing this. One stubborn air bubble right there. We'll try to work it out. All right, moment of truth. Here we go. I like to start with one corner. Just get my finger under, and then just ever so slightly pull it. And that's why you do it slow. And again, you just do this very patiently. Trying to separate it from the decal. This is also why a lot of people don't leave the transfer paper on to get the air bubbles out, because all you do is push that transfer paper into the decal. Now, the reason I did it here and why I often do it is because it adds an extra layer of protection between that body filler spreader and the decal itself. Just another way to maybe prevent ripping or to cut down on the chances of it ripping. But anyway, again, just keep pulling. There we be. How'd we do? So that went on there pretty good. Well, I still run this over it ever so slightly. And again, most of these bubbles aren't really bubbles, but it's that old decal that's in behind this one. So, not really the decal's fault that I was too lazy or didn't know the proper technique to take off the old one, but yeah, there it is. So, but it's better than a big old white circle on the side of the tank, I think. And so what if it's not the correct vintage? I just like the old four-legged Deere way better. I don't know, it's just something about it. It's back when farm equipment was good. Anyway, that's it. Upon editing this thing, I realized I didn't really give a good conclusion to the work that we had done in this phase of the project. So, as you can see, there is our logo from 1968. Because, you know, they had robots in 1968. No. But I just like the look of the four-legged Deere. And since this is my project, that's how we're doing it. Now, the brain box itself, I realize I didn't sum up as nice as I should have. We'll start with the 2020 Seed Sense module. I have the planter harness coming in here, as well as that 4-pin harness that you saw us running through the frame up there. This harness also is a T rather there is a T in this 4-pin harness that goes over to that air compressor. This thing will control that air compressor as well, and that planter harness runs alongside our air cart back to here, and that's just a standard 37-pin harness. This is that big ag leader harness that we made, and that runs alongside the air cart back to the front, and it pins into the liquid module and our hydraulic seed module up there. Basically all that's going to be doing is controlling, this one is the herbicide rate, and these two are the population, the seed population rates for the left and the right side of the planter. Alright, what else we got in here? This bus bar is the 12 volts that goes to each of the ag leader modules. That is protected with the 15 amp breaker up front. This bus bar in the rear receives 12 volts from the tractor via this 8-gauge wire. It's protected by a breaker up at the tractor. This bus bar feeds these two breakers here at the front and provides expansion rooms should I ever require more voltage, which I probably will down the road. Let's see what else we got. That 20 amp breaker, that thing, all it is it provides power to that hydraulic pack. I chose these size breakers because, well, that's what the original manufacturer had for inline fuses. Ag Leader had a 15, that hydraulic pack manufacturer had a 20. So that's what we used. Let's see, what else do we have in here? These pinouts on liquid module 1 and 2, these go to pump 1 and pump 2 for our 28 and our 1034. And the pinouts back in there, these, which you saw on this big coiled up harness here, that runs bin 1 and bin 2 of the air cart for when we're strip tilling. So in the fall, the only ag leader module we'll use is this bottom one. In the springtime, when we're planting, we'll be using 1, 2, 3, and 4 to get the job done. Now, what makes this all think, or rather decide to start doing what it's doing, is this bus bar here at the back, which receives 12 volt power when this switch up here is activated by that hydraulic cylinder. So when I drop the implement, that thing slams forward, raises that whisker switch, and when that whisker switch is raised, it throws 12 volts up to here. Now it's pulling power off of this bus bar as well, because in a standard ag leader system, those implement switches pull their 12 volts from a module. So it's still going to be pulling from a 15 amp power source, or a 15 amp protected power source rather. So that's really it. You guys confused yet? You guys have a headache as big as mine yet? I know I do. I know this thing does. So with that, I think I'm gonna leave it right there for the time being. Next video is going to be some plumbing.